And so when I saw that PFLAG and the board, in partnership, in alliance, were conducting this series of activities, and one of them happened to be on November 11th, I was happy about that, because for me, it signaled that on Remembrance Day, the conversation around the LGBTQ community can be further extended. I was also impressed with the ongoing activities that were placed on the website, activities around the early childhood years, knowing full well that the most important years of our children's lives are from 0 to about 7. And so the Durham board seems to be engaged. And I was particularly pleased that the theme this year is the year of the ally. One day, I was invited 2 years ago to a meeting with executive directors representing a number of social organizations in the Jane and Finch community. Our task that morning was to find new and innovative ways to engage the community, to engage students, and to encourage educational attainment. We met for about an hour, and people went around the room and offered up many ideas. I was the newcomer to the group, and I was invited because something with me, they saw me as an ally. At the end of the hour in the discussion, the group came up with the idea of having a conference on employment. And they got busy about that. Who was going to do what? People assumed various tasks. And then they got very quiet and sad. And then someone said, "We have done this idea 5,000 times already. There is nothing new about this idea." And then they turned and they said to me, "You are the new kid on the block. What is your idea?" One of the important assets of allies is the asset to be a good listener, because while we are allies, we are also sharing knowledge and learning. And I said to them, I don't have any ideas at this time, but I will take into consideration what you said, and I will respond back in 2 days. As I was leaving the meeting, I drove across the intersection of Jane and Finch. And as I was driving across that intersection, the most famous intersection in the country, I suddenly saw in my imagination a procession of people in demonstration going across the intersection. I suddenly remembered a man by the name of Charles Roach, a man who was an incredible ally for many communities in this country as he defended and advocated for human rights, civil rights, and spoke against injustice. And for some reason in my imagination, I could see him leading this procession. When we are engaged in being allies, it is important that we observe and we are aware of the talents and the gifts and the strategies and all those things that people do, because oftentimes they can help us. I immediately drove to Westview Secondary School. And I saw a group of students in the parking lot, and I got out of the car with my funky self, and I went over to the students and I said, "Hey, I want to ask something. If a parade or a celebration of the graduates of this school were to take place, would you be interested in being part of a parade or a celebration of the graduates from this school?" And the first student looked at me and he said to me, "Miss, that is a good idea, but it can't happen or will never happen." And I said to him, "Put that aside. Let's assume it will happen. Will you buy into the idea? Again, when we are allies in education, we must center the students. We must look at them as the priority. It's not about us. It is about how we can work together to uplift our students. And I said to him, what would it be called, this thing called a parade? And the other friend said to me, we are kind of excellent, you know, miss. I think we should call it the Walk with Excellence. I said, thank you. I got in my car and I drove to a school called C.W. Jeffries, a school that still has a stigma because of the death of Jordan Manners. And once again, I drove into the parking lot and I saw another group of students, and I got out the car and I asked the same question. If a celebration or a parade was organized for the graduating students of the school, would you buy in? And once again, they looked at me and they said, "It never going to happen, miss." And I said to them, suppose it happens. Yes, let's make it a reality. Are you going to buy in? Yes. What would you like to see? Miss, if it's a reception, we want it to be fancy. We don't want to have boxed lunches. We don't want all the adults to speak. We don't want the smartest kids in the school to address the audience. We want the popular students in the school to address the audience, and so on. And then one student asked a very important question. Where would we be walking to? And I said, you will walk to York University. I went to the third school, and it was called Downsview Secondary School, part of the family of schools. And this time I met the students in the foyer. And once again, I asked the same question. And once again, I got the same response. This will never happen, miss. Well, assume it happens. Would you buy in? Yes, miss. We could bring the drum line. We could make flags. You're sure this is going to happen for us? Whoa. I got back in the car, and I drove back to Westview School, and I asked to speak to the principal. And I explained to the principal that I had this idea that was germinating in my head, an idea that said the graduating students in Jane and Finch community in a particular family could walk collectively from their one high school into York University as an urban rite of passage, as a demonstration of student excellence, as a different and another conversation about Jane and Finch. And the principal asked me that important question that all principals ask, is it going to cost me any money? And because I have been in so many staff rooms for such a long time, I knew that the answer to say was no. And so I went back to C.W. Jeffries, and by the time I got back to C.W. Jeffries, Westview had called C.W. Jeffries, and that principal was waiting. And I said to him, would you? And he said to me, as a matter of fact, this can be the anchor point because it makes logical sense for the students to walk from Central and Finch in a straight line all the way to York University. And I thought, pepper sauce, this is good. And by the time that I got to Downsview, Maria, she had got the news. And she said to me, I'm in. I will send my teachers to work on this project. And then I called up the executive directors of the community organizations and I said, this is an idea. I have investigated the idea and I have started with the students first. And I have gained their permission in part. I have spoken to the leadership of the schools and they are interested. And the community organization said, let's form a committee. We welcome the idea. And so a community called the Walk with Excellence was struck. The community included the principals of those schools, a number of their staff, members of the student council, one or two curious parents who heard about the initiative and wanted to be part of it. Suddenly, community groups were emerging, people like the Black Creek Community Health Center, and they said, we can offer the first aid on the walk. Suddenly, the community officers who worked in the school heard about it, and of course, we needed the permit, right? And they said, how can we be involved? And we said to them, please don't bring the cruisers, but have the community officers who work in the school come and accompany the parade on their bicycles. We will walk in dignity down the sidewalk. And then York University, ooh la la, that was an awesome thing. When York first heard about the idea, they thought, oh my stars, all them children coming to our school, what we gonna do? Pandemonium and panic. And then someone in the finance department in York calculated that if all this power was coming into the university, maybe they should pay attention. And then some people in the university who were progressive and great allies, they recognized that here was an opportunity for the university located in that community. And here was an opportunity for the university not to just research the community, but also for the university to extend itself into community. And so in the first year, 350-something students walked from Sentinel and Finch into York University, accompanied by their teachers, by the leadership of their schools, by the superintendent, by the community organizations, by parents, by people who just simply got out of their cars and were curious and honked their horns and marched with us. People from the Toronto Star, the CBC, the media, they all came to walk with these graduating students, participating in an urban rite of passage. Allies and being allies or being in an alliance is a powerful thing. And because we have such a dynamic committee, and because we come together with this common purpose, I see action, I see activity. When we come together as allies, we are not dormant, but we suddenly become stimulated with each other's practices, with ideas, with so many different things, and then we see movement. Throughout history, history has taught us that social movements and movements create change, impact on social and political power, and can transform a society. And so I encourage you to respond to this call to be an ally and to continue to engage in your various alliances.